Greetings fellow Whovians and welcome to Timey Wimey Review. That's it, we've had a full season of Doctor Who with Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor, Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday. So there's only two things left to do. One, think about how successful or unsuccessful this season has been. I'll do a bit of a overall season review later on in this video. But let's do something a bit more fun and rank these episodes from worst to best. So let me know in the comments below what is your least favourite to favourite Doctor Who episode from season 1. But please hit the subscribe button, that'll really help out this channel. This is Doctor Who season 1 ranked. All 9 episodes will be ranked. Yes, that includes the 2024 Christmas special. So see how far that goes into the rank list. But let's start off with number 9. And it has to be the opener, Space Babies. I'm not going to go too much into details in this ranked one because I've got my spoiler talk videos that you can check out. I'll do with the playlist. That's going to be in the link in the description below. But I feel like season 1 overall was a bit sort of experimental, doing things a little bit differently to sort of traditional Doctor Who stories that we've known and loved. And as much as on paper Space Babies was quite a good idea, I just don't think it quite worked on screen. I felt mainly because it was just a bit too much maybe for an opening episode. I'm not quite sure. And also the voice syncing of the babies and the talking, it just didn't quite gel with me. I'm gonna have to rewatch this episode really to give it a full fairness, since I've only seen it since it came out. But the overall sort of thoughts going after it a few days later was mainly that I'm wondering if the production team got a bit of cold feet, because obviously we had a 2-episode opener with The Devil's Cord, but I'm wondering if that was kind of a last-minute decision as well to open up the season proper with 2 episodes, because I feel like if they just left it with Space Babies and we had another week into the new episode, I think a lot of people would see this more negative approach to Space Babies and maybe put a bit more of a dumpster fire on Doctor Who and Ncuti Gatwa's sort of season debut, as it were. So yeah, sadly it didn't quite work for me, so I'm gonna have to put Space Babies at number 9. Number 8 is Rogue. Now, I was quite entertained by this episode, don't get me wrong, but I just feel out of all the episodes in this season, this is probably the least memorable. The only thing that was going for it, well, it was 2. One is Doctor Who doing Bridgerton, which is always cool. You know, like I said, they have been experimenting quite a lot. And one thing Doctor Who does excel on, or at least kind of be a bit proud of sometimes, is having to take on other genres and other TV shows. We've seen that even in the classic era of Doctor Who. So it was sort of no different there. Maybe just didn't quite hit the mark that they wanted to do. Because like I said, I just found it a bit sort of forgettable in terms of storyline. I know it's mainly just to do with sort of the romantic dilemma between the Doctor and Rogue, which was excellently performed by Ncuti Gatwa and Jonathan Goff respectively. I hope we do get to see Jonathan Goff return as Rogue one day in the future. I feel like he will be. My bold prediction would be maybe he's the boss. We don't know who the boss is yet, and would it be a sickening twist for the Doctor if the boss turns out to be Rogue? Number 7 is the Christmas special, The Church on Ruby Road. Great start, don't get me wrong. We got Ncuti Gatwa fully in there as the 15th Doctor, surrounded all with that mystery. A great introduction to Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday, and the introduction of the Sunday family. Also the introduction of the mystery of who is Mrs. Flood, played scarily well by Anita Dobson. We also had goblins. We had very catchy Goblin song of the Goblin King as well. I've only just got that song out of my head. Great practical effects with the Goblin King and some great sort of moments between the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday. It's just the last sort of 20 minutes of this episode, I just felt like it got a bit lost. It just didn't quite sort of, have the same effect as, say, the second half, the first half of this episode. So yeah, was I entertained overall? Absolutely, and I can say that with all the episodes from season 1. But this had to go somewhere, and sadly it was number 7, mainly for that final 20 minutes. It just, I don't know, it just kind of got lost somewhere. This is where it starts to get really difficult, because like I said, I enjoyed all these episodes for one reason or another. But here we go, number 6, The Devil's Cord. Again, it was for the two-parters. Obviously, we had Space Babies. The Devil Cord is night and day, in my opinion. Had a lot of fun with this episode. I thought Jinx Monsoon as Maestro was spectacular. She was brilliant and an absolute show stealer for that particular episode. And I just thought the premise was fun. And if anything, for me, what I took away from it is, what if Doctor Who decided to become a stage play again, like it did back in the 80s? I think this will be a great episode that could really expand upon that and turn it into a full-blown Doctor Who musical, which I think Russell T Davies was secretly wanting to do. He has hinted in the future he wants to do a full-on musical episode of Doctor Who, so that might be happening. But I think this was just a bit of a flavour of what could be. But yeah, this was definitely, it just had stage musical vibes all the way through. I know a lot of people thought it was a bit maybe too indulgent with the always twist at the end song, but yeah, I found it fun. It was harmless for me. But one of the great sort of takeaways as well was Ruby's theme being introduced here. A great piece of music by Murray Gold. But yeah, it just was being a fun episode of Doctor Who. We needed more of that in this season, which I'll get to later on in this video. But yeah, I had fun. It just had to go somewhere, and this was its number. Number 5, Empire Death. Now, this was a very much a yo-yo finale for Doctor Who. Some people, many Whovians, loved it. Many Whovians felt underwhelmed and deflated by this season finale. Yeah, like I said, I've spoken in great lengths on my spoiler talk video. Check that out. It's on there in terms of what I felt with the episode overall. And I'm going to have to just stick with what I said in terms of what I felt towards the end. It did feel, it gave me sort of a nice sort of warmth to it. It was something a bit more different to what we're used to, but I can understand why a lot of people felt underwhelmed by the reveals and everything that got built up on. And yeah, I can see it definitely not working for a lot of people. But I did go away with it, probably mainly because of Shooty Gatwa and Millie Gibson's final farewell in the TARDIS. It just kind of just brought it home to me. Like I said, not the most strongest season finale. There's certainly been a lot better ones in the Russell T Davies era, but yeah, I enjoyed it all the same. But again, not my best from season 1. Number 4, 73 Yards. Now, this is one that I imagine a lot of Whovians will be going, oh my gosh, this should be number 1. What are you talking about? But it's a bit similar in terms of the church on Ruby Road. Great build-up, brilliant sort of, well, it was a great Millie Gibson show, let's be honest. So yeah, had a lot of build-up for Ruby Sunday. But I just felt the final act just didn't quite stick the landing. I felt that there's a lot of things that was left off the table that should be wrapped up, which hopefully will happen in a future episode of Doctor Who. We definitely need Roger A.P. Gwilliam back. There's so much more that could have been explored in this episode. This should have been a 2-part episode. Really, this was good, but could have been so much more. But a lot of credit to Millie Gibson. She was, again, phenomenal in this episode. And this is what is the main takeaway from this particular episode. I just wish the landing was way much better. I wish the ending was a lot more stronger. Should have been a 2-parter. Number 3, boom. Stephen Moffat back with a bang, and boy did he come back with a bang. So much was packed into this 45-minute episode that even, you know, as much as I've talked about on the spoiler talks, I'd need to go back and rewatch and re-review this at some point in the future, because it had so many sort of Moffatisms in the world of Doctor Who, all expanded, but some great dialogue in there. Maybe not the most sort of memorable cast, sort of memorable guest characters in there, but yeah, it was kind of Stephen Moffat sort of writing for Ruby and the 15th Doctor. So if you wanted that in your wish list, you got it, and you got it in spades with this one. Like I said, there was lots of Stephen Moffat references in his time on Doctor Who, which was a nice sort of hark back to those, and just a very much a solid Moffat story. Very enjoyable, great one-liners, brilliantly delivered by Ncuti Gatwa as well as Millie Gibson. Number 2, The Legend of Ruby Sunday. This felt like a traditional Doctor Who leading up to the great finale, or the grand finale, I should say. As I mentioned earlier in The Empire Death, it's definitely, you know, there's flawed parts of the plot hole, and as well as quite a bit of filler in The Legend of Ruby Road, where we're having to introduce everyone to the whole unit family. But it was sort of a nice build up in terms of that. I just wish they gave Yasmin Finney lots more to do as Rose Temple Noble, or just Rose Noble. But yeah, it was great to see Gemma Redgrave back as Kate Stewart. Definitely her best performance as Kate Stewart, in my opinion. Lemmy Rush as Morris Gibbs was brilliant. You know, great piece of casting. I'm glad that they used him here rather than Space Babies. I do hope, though, that Ruth Madeley does make a return as the scientific advisor for UNIT in the future. But yeah, it was just a nice sort of traditional build-up. Mel as well. Mel had some great scenes, especially in Empire of Death. But yeah, the scene between her and the 15th Doctor, when the Doctor was having a bit of a crisis, bit of a meltdown, and she kind of picked him up and scruff of the neck and said, "You need to sort this out." Obviously, we had all the build-up of Susan Twist, and could it be Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, and then the big reveal of the returning Sutekh and the legendary Gabriel Wolf coming back to voice Sutekh one more time, at the very least. So yeah, it just had everything building up, and I did get to see this in the cinema, so there was maybe a little bit of sentimental value in that one as well, seeing that on the big screen ready for the season finale. But yeah, it was traditional Doctor Who, great sort of build up at its best. And yeah, that's why it picked the number 2 spot. Which leads one more, number 1, and that is Dot and Bubble. Like I said, this has been quite an experimental sort of Doctor Who, and also at the same time, familiar sort of territories for Doctor Who, trying to be the sort of a Doctor Who version of something. So obviously we had Doctor Who's version of Bridgerton, and, you know, like I said, classic era, we've had Doctor Who being horror. This is Doctor Who being Black Mirror, and it was executed down to a T. An amazing story from start to finish. Pretty much the glue of this was Carly Cook as Lindy Pepper Bean. She was phenomenal in this episode, and that was a very tough role to play, being obviously this horrible person, this very ditzy person, a person that had to bring out a bit of humour as well in this episode, and actually at one point, or some parts in the episode, having to feel sorry for her and worried about her well-being. Again, just a fantastic story. I can't say I can go on about this for hours on end, but obviously that ending, so powerful. From the writing point of view, from the acting as well. Ncuti Gatwa, first scene that he is he performed as the 15th Doctor, that is just absolutely out of this world, phenomenal. And what a powerful scene, and everyone else as well reacting to his acting, particularly if you look at Millie Gibson sort of going away and crying. I feel like there was probably actual real emotion rather than acting emotion going from there. But again, Carly Cook was phenomenal. And it's definitely a character I would like to see return in Doctor Who in the future. And just to see if she's actually learned her ways from her bigotry, or she's just still stubborn, a character like that to the bitter end. I really do hope they bring this character back just to see how the Doctor copes with her in another encounter. Yeah, from this episode, I was just hooked from start to finish. As soon as I finished it, Mrs. Timey Wimey came downstairs and went, "You need to watch this," and she went, "Right, let's watch it now." "Yes, please." And we did. I watched it back to back. In fact, in the space of 24 hours, I watched it 3 times. I just felt it was that damn good, and that's my pick for number 1 in Doctor Who, the best episode of Doctor Who Season 1. This is a season that's definitely had its peaks and troughs, and I feel that everyone is still finding their way in Doctor Who. Even though Russell T Davies is back for another run as Doctor Who showrunner, I feel like he's not been at his best at Doctor Who as of yet. And I'm wondering, it's in 2 ways. Is it because he's got a bigger budget and he's just going for more flash and bang rather than more character-driven storytelling, which I think, if it was me being critical, I'd rather have more character storytelling than the flash and bang. Quality is always better than quantity, and the writing has got to always be quality over the special effects. As much as I love the special effects in Doctor Who, Doctor Who has never looked more gorgeous in its life. And it's great with all the sets as well, and the big blue screen for Bad Brother Studios, and using all the technology that they've got at the moment. But the quality in the storytelling and the characters, if anything, has got to be there. I don't think all the characters have been the most fleshed out that we have seen in the past. There's been sort of a handful, I would say, that I definitely would love to see return. Maestro, Lindy Pepper Bean, Rogue, for example. The other factor for this is a definite soft reboot for Doctor Who. This is a Doctor Who season that's had the mission of bringing in a more international audience, and maybe bringing back some of the old mainstays back to Doctor Who that might have tailored off since the sort of Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi era, or even to the Jodie Whittaker era. So that's what it was trying to do. So it was definitely, there was lots of nods and flashbacks to the past, which will definitely do some good fan service, and I didn't think it was over the top fan service in that respect. But also, you didn't want to over alienate and overwhelm new audiences with all this sort of past sort of history and dialogue. So yeah, this was, like I said, it's a season that was a soft reboot, and it was clearly showing on there. I feel overall, if I had to sort of sum up in a sentence, this season, I think it's a season that got away with it. Don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun, I was entertained, but I can understand why Whovians were a little bit underwhelmed if they didn't think it was the most strongest season, and in some respects I do feel the same. I'm expecting bigger and better things for season 2. It really needs to do that. It definitely needs to shift a massive gear when it comes back in 2025, and of course the Christmas special with Stephen Moffat in December of this year. But yeah, I definitely think there's a lot more to give from the Russell T Davies era. There's a lot more to give from Ncuti Gatwa. I think he's had a good first season. He's definitely the Doctor in my eyes. Fantastic performances, a great actor, but I don't think we've seen the very best of him yet. I think he's got a lot more to give. And personal wish list of mine, I don't think it's going to happen, but I think the next season or future seasons should be a minimum of 10 episodes. I think 8 is a tiny bit too short, or if they are going to have to stick with 8, then I hope that Russell T Davies gets more character time of the Doctor and companion, because this is what it was lacking as well in this season, was the time of seeing the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday coming together as friends and great companions. We were told it you know, in terms of like, oh, we've been together 6 months and it's been fantastic. We want to see that. I definitely want to see that. It needed that to really drive home some of the impact of when Ruby had that fake shootout death in Boom, when we had the heartbreaking goodbye at the end of Empire of Death. Again, well acted, and yeah, I was, you know, it was pulling on the strings of my heart, but it could have been so much more if we saw a lot more visually of the relationship building between the 15th Doctor and Ruby. Like I said, I had a lot of fun with this season, but definitely want a lot more for season 2. Did you agree or disagree with my ranked list? Let me know in the comments below your ranked order from worst to best of Doctor Who episodes from season 1 and your overall thoughts from this season. Do you agree with what I said, or do you have any more sort of thoughts, or what would you like to see for season 2 of Doctor Who? Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please like, share and subscribe. Hit the cloister bell for more notifications. Come say hello and follow me on Facebook and X, and do check out my other fantastic Doctor Who related content on the Timey Wimey Review TikTok page, and of course right here on the Timey Wimey Review YouTube channel. Until we meet again.